When I first became a single parent, I had three very young boys, a co-parent with whom I shared custody and also had to coordinate with, and a far smaller place than where we had lived before. But the thing is, these circumstances did change over the years, and I became friends with several single parents whose situations were completely different from mine, from each other's, and also varied over time. In this video, I'll show you the pro tips of single parenting that are always true. No matter what your custody arrangement, no matter your living situation, how many kids you have, or their stages of development. These are always true. Some of them are obvious. Some of them are not so obvious. And we're also going to talk about a few that we kind of know, but we tend to resist. We'll start with the obvious ones, get them out of the way. Single parenting can be messy. It's fun to watch those videos of single parents on a nice clean couch in a nice clean staged living room telling you about how great it is to be a single parent. My experience is it's messier than that looks. So you just have to decide which messes you're going to focus on, which ones you're not. Obviously, I don't spend as much time cleaning up my office as some of the other messes. The second thing is comparison is the thief of joy. Again, something that should be obvious. You know what's going wrong with your situation, but when you're looking at somebody else's situation, you're only seeing what they are curating. And if they are curating an appearance of having it all together, you might make the mistake of thinking that everybody else has got it all together while you're falling apart. Everybody has good things and bad things going on. And if you compare everything you know about yourself to what limited things you know about other people, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So I recommend you don't do that. Mindset. You've probably heard the term growth mindset. Absolutely, a growth mindset is essential for moving forward farther, faster. A closed mindset is, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. And a growth mindset is, I don't know how to do this yet, but I'm going to figure it out. That's an attitude that you want to maintain throughout the situation, throughout your lives, actually. What can I learn in order to be able to do this better? Because I can learn. So maintain a growth mindset. However, avoid toxic positivity. Just something to be aware of. And then the last, most obvious one, which should be obvious at least, and that is keep your eyes on the prize. Don't get distracted by unimportant things, and when you get what you want, move on to the next thing. Don't keep fighting unnecessary battles, especially if you've already won them, and don't fixate on the means of how you get there. Sometimes we kind of get caught up in, well, this is how this should be done, instead of there's a faster route to get there. Let's just go ahead and get there and not be quite so caught up in making sure that everybody is doing absolutely everything the way we think they should be doing them. Those are the obvious ones. Next, we're going to talk about the less obvious ones. By the way, if you want to learn more about going from chaos to calm as a single parent, I am sharing all kinds of resources in my free community. Click the link in the description to join, or if you can't see the description, you can go to singleparentconfidential.com. That's singleparentconfidential.com. So, what are the less obvious things that are always true? These are pro tips for single parenting. The first is there will be rules, but the rules serve us, not the other way around. We will make up rules, or we will discover rules as we go. We will implement rules about how things should be done, but we do that in order to make our lives easier. And sometimes we end up getting caught on rules that we're like, well, we have to do things this way because we have set up this rule this way. And we ignore the fact that circumstances are changing and we have to sometimes change with the time. The rules are supposed to make our lives easier. We do not exist to serve the rules. Another less obvious pro tip is the importance of rituals. Rituals, I know some people talk about maintaining set schedules. That works for a lot of people, doesn't work for other people. But rituals, I think, are key regardless. You may, for example, want to consider a bedtime ritual. Now, obviously, as the kids get older, that bedtime ritual is going to change. When they're younger, there's going to be the brushing of the teeth, the putting on the pajamas, getting a glass of water if that's what your kids need at night. There's those, but there's also the mind expanding rituals, and these are the ones where I connected with my kids, I think, in just an amazing way, is that not only did we do those things, but while they were willing to do it, we would play a card game or we would tell stories. Actually, I would read books with kids at night. As they grew up, the ritual no longer included me reading to them. It actually, as they grew older, they would read to each other while we were all together. And then later on, they outgrew that as well. However, we had established a ritual of reading at night, and for a couple of my kids, that ritual carried forward. Rituals provide safety, consistency, and also a reset. It puts us in the frame of mind that we associate that ritual with. So rituals, very important. I'm going to mention another ritual that we have used. This may or may not serve you. Whenever somebody leaves the house, they need to announce that they are leaving the house. They need to tell somebody they are leaving the house. When they come home, they need to say hello to somebody when they get home. There are reasons that my household does this, and actually my co-parent has also implemented that in her household as well, which is great because it makes it easier for the kids to follow through on those rituals at both houses. But it helps me to know, since I've got 3 boys, helps me to keep track of who's home, who isn't home, that kind of thing. Plus, it's a connection thing. And I think that it's very important to have these little rituals of connection. You may have completely different rituals, but I highly recommend, it's a pro tip, rituals will ultimately make things go a lot smoother. This one is also not quite as obvious, but I cannot stress how important this is. Reward honesty. Now that sounds obvious, but what will also often happen is your kids want to talk to you about something, but if they know they're going to get into trouble for it, they're going to not want to tell you. And if they tell you this thing that they saw, they did, or that somebody else did, and they're worried that you're going to get mad, they will eventually not tell you things that you need to know. And there are occasions where the kids are going to have to tell you things that are unpleasant, and you need to know about them in order to keep everybody safe. So, reward honesty, and the way we reward honesty in this house is if the kids had to report something, whatever the issue was, if there were consequences for that thing, the consequences were pretty much limited to what the natural consequences would have been, as opposed to if they don't stay upfront about it, then the consequences will be heavier. So somebody scratches the car. Now, obviously, we're talking about older kids here. Somebody scratches the car. I need to know about it right away. And this has happened. I'm not going to say who, but they tell me right away, then I can act on it right away. What's the consequence? Well, the natural consequence is if my car insurance rates are going to go up, they're going to have to get that that summer job in order to pay the increase in the car insurance. I give that as an example. There are lots of other examples, but that's a natural consequence for what happened. I am not adding any penalty to that. They already know they shouldn't scratch the car when they're driving. But if I were to yell and take away their car driving privileges and all that, it's not going to make them drive any more carefully. It's going to make them not tell me that they scratched the car and hope I don't notice. So this is why we reward honesty. This is one example, but there are tons of examples, and I have to stress this. As the kids get older, the things that they want to tell you that can be unpleasant become more important, and you really benefit from being able to hear them and for them to feel free to talk to you. And this has happened with me and my kids on a few occasions where they were very upfront and honest when they were going through a rough time. They knew they could talk to me, and they knew that they would that I would receive them appropriately. So it's very important. I throw that out there. Rewarding honesty now pays dividends in the future like you wouldn't believe. And this one is a little less obvious, even though it should be obvious. And that is, if what you're doing isn't working, try something else. I know I've mentioned that before. I will mention it again. Actually, there are a couple things here I've mentioned before, and I will mention again because they're absolutely worth repeating. I see this happen all the time. I've been guilty of it myself from time to time. Sometimes what you're doing isn't working, but you keep doing it that way because you think that's the way it needs to be done. This kind of ties into the don't get fixated on the means, keep your eyes on the prize. If what you're doing isn't working, change your approach. So there's that. Now, what are the things that you probably know are true, but you are resisting them anyway? And I know at least I often resist these. One of them is you have to remember, when you go flying, they say if you are traveling with a small child and there's cabin depressurization, put your mask on first before you put the mask on your child. This is essential. You have to do this, because if you don't do this, and because of the cabin depressurization, you lose your ability to concentrate or even stay awake, you can't help your kid. You have to stay healthy in order to be able to help your kid. And a lot of parents skip some of the obvious things that they should be doing to maintain a healthy them, whatever that may be. I'm not saying you need to prioritize yourself to the exclusion of your kids. I'm saying you need to prioritize yourself to the extent that it's going to end up helping everybody in the family, not just you. So what would be some examples? Working on your own personal development, taking the occasional class, or going out and occasionally spending time with friends, whatever the case may be. Replenish yourself, keep yourself healthy, because it's the only way you're going to be there for your kids. Okay, make friends. I mentioned friends a moment ago. To the extent that you are able to, if you can find a community of your own, that many hands make for lighter work. It's sometimes you'll trade babysitting duties with another family, or whatever the case may be. Friends can help in a pragmatic way, but they can also just help keep your sanity. We are social creatures, even those of us who are introverts. So I throw that out there. Another thing that you probably know but might resist, and that is you have to prioritize. You can't do everything all at once. So rather than beating yourself up about it, triage. Figure out what is most urgent, most important, take care of those, and then work on down the list. Hopefully, you're going to get to the point where there are fewer and fewer urgent things, and then you're also getting a handle on the important things, makes life a lot easier. Prioritize and attack the things that need to be done in an order of importance rather than trying to do everything all at once. Again, it's something that we generally know we need to do, but I see so many people who don't always do that. They just try to do everything all at once. Um, Something else that I think we should all be aware of, and yet we don't always notice, and that is whatever your custody arrangement, whatever your living arrangement, whatever your situation is, there are advantages as well as disadvantages. We tend to focus on the disadvantages, take advantage of the good things. Um, Quick example, if you don't have a co-parent, well, you it does add stress because now you are responsible for all of the decisions with regard to the kids. However, you also don't have to negotiate the decisions with regard to the kids with a co-parent. You are the last word. You decide. You don't have to clear it with anybody else if you don't want to. You can ask for advice if you do want to. However, if you do have a co-parent, on the one hand, everything's a negotiation, everything's a coordination. So there's that element of it, and we can focus on how we don't like doing that, or we can focus on, because I have a co-parent, that means I get to share in the burden of making these decisions. I get to occasionally have time off because the children are going to be with their other parent, and then that gives me time to either get ready for when the kids are coming back or spend time on myself. So both of these are elements of having a co-parent or not having a co-parent. It's the same thing with living situation and all the rest of that. Where there are advantages, take advantage of them, and don't just assume that the bad things are the only things about your situation. Look for the advantages. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about that we know, but we don't always accommodate, and that is your kids have needs, and those needs are changing all the time. They're always, I've talked about this before, and I will talk about this again, and it's an acronym that I've used to remind myself that there are certain things that the kids are going to need no matter what their stage of development. They're gonna need respect. They need to respect the people around them. They need to respect the rules, but they also need respect coming to them as well. The parents need to respect them. Respect is important. And then there's consistency. There's agency. Agency, they need to be able to have a little bit of control over their own environment. Obviously, the older they get, the more control they can be trusted with. But then there's also safety and trust. These things always need to be there, but remember, they evolve over time. And sometimes what you've been doing that was working, when it stops working, the problem isn't with the rule. The problem is, oh, they're now at a different stage of development and we just need to adjust accordingly. So it's something to keep in mind. We know it. Sometimes we resist changing, but the fact of the matter is, as the kids move through their stages of development, it's going to happen. It's better if we accommodate it sooner rather than later. So, uh, I know a couple of these I've said it before and I'll say it again. And that's because these things are very much worth remembering. I stumbled upon a mantra. I don't know if I heard it from somebody else or it just occurred to me that it would be healthy for me to adopt this mantra. And that is, the kids are not always convenient, but they are never a burden. Adopting this mantra, first of all, it helped my mental processing. It helped me to realize that they're not a burden, which made it reduced the stress a little bit. But also, it improved our relationship in ways, again, that weren't obvious at the time, but became obvious over time. If as when they needed something, if I did not react like, this is inconvenient and it's messing me up, it's a burden, that makes them not want to bring things to you. And I'm not just talking now about the things they need to. I'm talking about the things that they want to. If they want to share something with you, but every time they go to talk to you, it's an inconvenience to you and you express it as if it's a burden, they're going to stop bringing things to you. So, um, yeah, it's not always going to be convenient, and that's okay. You just deal with that and then you move on. You accept when they reach out, you accept when you have to drive them somewhere. It's just part of the deal. Not always going to be according to a schedule that you would prefer, but they are not a burden. So those are the pro tips that are valid no matter what stage of development your kids are at, no matter how many you have. These tips are going to help out regardless. I currently do have a limited number of spots open to work with me one-on-one if you would like to get from chaos to clarity as a single parent. If you're curious, there's a link in the description. First come, first serve. So, in conclusion, the pro tips that I will always come back to is that the kids are not always convenient. They're never a burden. But also, if what you're doing isn't working, adjust what you're doing. Recast. Remember, recast. Respect, consistency, agency, safety, and trust. And keep your eyes on the prize. Single parenting is messy, but if approached the right way, it can be a good messy, and you can develop bonds that you will cherish for the long haul. So those are my tips and tricks for today, and we'll see you next time.